The stars above the Valoran cluster were calm, but peace was an illusion. Far below, the homeworld of the Zareth people trembled under the fire of enemy fleets. Towers fell. Skies burned. Whole cities turned dark. The Zareth had always been a gentle species. They were scholars, builders, and explorers. Their tall, slender forms with glowing silver eyes were not made for war. Their history carried little blood. For centuries, they had relied on treaties, trade, and alliances to keep them safe. But now, none of that mattered. The Draxan Dominion, a powerful empire of conquerors, had broken through the Zareth defense lines. Their warships cut through fleets, like knives through paper. Their armies landed on colonies, forcing surrender after surrender. And the galaxy did nothing. Inside the great crystal hall of the Zareth Council, fear filled every face. The leaders sat around a circular table, the ground beneath them shaking from distant strikes. Elder Tirash, the council's oldest voice, whispered, "We cannot hold another day. The Draxan will take the capital soon. We must act." "Act," answered Councillor Malira, her silver eyes wet with despair. "We have begged our allies already." The Kyle refused. The Vorth pretended not to hear. The Lurny said helping us would disrupt balance. Who else can we call? Silence filled the hall. Each councillor knew the truth. No one wanted to stand against the Draxan Dominion. Finally, a younger official, Sarath, spoke. "There is one last option. The old beacon. It is meant to reach any species in the wider galaxy. Perhaps someone will answer." The chamber grew tense. Everyone knew the danger of such a signal. It could reach anyone, even predators, even those whispered about in old, fearful stories. Elder Tirash closed his eyes. "If we do not send it, we are finished. Better to risk the unknown than accept certain extinction." And so the decision was made. The beacon was hidden deep within the planet's oldest observatory. It was not built for war, but for discovery. Long ago, the Zareth had dreamed of contacting unknown species. Now, that dream had turned into a desperate gamble. Sarath stood before the machine, his thin hands trembling. He programmed the signal, a cry for help, simple, raw, and universal. It carried coordinates, images of the Zareth people, and the words, "We are under attack. Our people are dying. We ask for aid. Whoever hears us, please, do not ignore our SOS." With a final breath, Sarath pressed the release. The signal shot into the void, traveling across the galaxy at the speed of light, reaching far beyond Zareth space. He whispered, "Please, let someone hear us." Far away, light years across the darkness, the signal spread. It passed dying stars, empty worlds, and ancient ruins. It crossed into regions long untouched by Zareth maps, and then, unexpectedly, it reached Earth space. On the blue planet called Earth, humanity had changed. They were no longer only earthbound. Generations of exploration had carried them to the stars. They had colonies, fleets, and powerful alliances of their own. But more than that, they carried with them a reputation. Humans were born on a Deathworld, a planet filled with predators, storms, and disasters that would kill most alien species in hours. To survive there, humanity had evolved tough, clever, adaptable. To live was to fight. To endure was to grow stronger. Other civilizations whispered about them as Deathworlders, the most dangerous kind of species. And now an alien SOS had reached their borders. Inside the United Fleet Command on Earth, alarms echoed. Officers gathered around the transmission. Admiral Marcus Hale, a stern man with iron-gray hair, watched the translation appear on the holoscreen. The plea was simple. The images showed fragile beings, thin and pale, their cities burning. "Who sent this?" Hale asked. A technician replied, "Unknown species, they call themselves Zareth. Signal originates in the Valoran cluster. That's deep in Draxan territory." The room grew quiet. Everyone knew the name Draxan. Humanity had not yet fought them, but they had heard the stories, an empire of endless expansion, cruel and merciless. General Elena Ruiz, standing beside Hale, frowned. Admiral, this is a trap. If we go there, we may spark war with the Dominion. Hale's eyes narrowed. And if we do nothing? We let another people die? They are not our responsibility, Ruiz pressed. We are stretched thin already. Why risk our fleets for strangers? Across the table, a younger officer spoke softly. Commander Jalen Ward, known for his boldness, leaned forward. Sir, if the stories about the Draxan are true, then it will not end with the Zareth. They will come for others. Maybe even for us. If we let them crush worlds unchecked, we only make them stronger. The debate burned hot. Some argued for safety, others for action. But in the end, the weight of the message could not be ignored. The desperate voices of the Zareth echoed in every heart. Admiral Hale stood tall. Prepare the fleet. Humanity has heard their call. We will respond. Back in the Valoran cluster, the Zareth held on as best they could. Their ships, small and weak compared to the Draxan, fell one by one. Refugees fled into the dark, hunted, their survival measured in hours. On the refugee vessel Silver Dawn, families huddled together. The captain, a weary Zareth named Alien, struggled to keep the ship alive. Fuel was low. Hull cracks grew. He knew they would not last long. His daughter, little Lyra, clutched his hand. Father, will someone hear us? Will someone come? Alien swallowed hard. I do not know, child, but we must believe. Just then the ship shuddered violently. Sensors blared. Draxan raiders had found them. Panic filled the corridors. Families cried. Engines screamed. The Silver Dawn was no match for the approaching warship. But before the Draxan could strike, a shadow fell across space. A massive vessel appeared, armored, bristling with weapons, its engines burning bright. It was not Zareth. It was not Draxan. It was something else. The Silver Dawn's sensors tried to read the newcomer. The language came through distorted at first, then clear, sharp, commanding. This is the human warship Resolute. Zareth vessel, hold your course. You are safe now. Alien froze. He had never heard of humans. Yet in that moment he felt something powerful. The voice carried weight, strength, and certainty. The Draxan raider, scanning the newcomer, hesitated. For the first time in their conquests, they faced an opponent they did not recognize. The Resolute opened fire. Energy beams tore across the dark, striking with deadly accuracy. The raider exploded into fragments, vanishing in light. Silence followed. Then the human captain spoke again. To all Zareth survivors, your SOS has been received. The Deathworlder fleet is on the move. In the Zareth Council Hall, hope returned like a spark in the night. Reports arrived of strange new warships, massive and disciplined, engaging the Draxan. Counselor Malira whispered, "They came. Someone truly came." Elder Tirash, voice shaking, murmured, "We do not yet know if this is salvation or the beginning of something far greater." The Zareth had cast their cry into the dark void, not knowing who would hear. Now, humanity, Deathworlders, the most dangerous species, had answered, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The halls of United Fleet Command buzzed with energy. The alien SOS had changed everything. For decades, humanity had avoided direct war with the great powers of the galaxy. They had grown their colonies, built their fleets, and tested their strength only when challenged. But now the question stood in front of every leader, soldier, and citizen. Should humanity intervene in the Valoran cluster? The Zareth's plea was already spreading across human networks. News screens showed images of burning alien cities, tall, fragile beings fleeing from explosions, and desperate voices begging for help. Some people wept. Some grew angry. Others whispered in fear, wondering if humanity was about to throw itself into a war it could not escape. Inside the command chamber, the debate raged on. The council debate Admiral Marcus Hale stood at the center, his eyes locked on the giant holomap of the galaxy. The Valoran cluster glowed red, marked by enemy symbols. Around it, human-controlled space shone blue. General Elena Ruiz paced back and forth, her voice sharp. "We cannot afford this. The Draxan Dominion is not like the raiders or pirates we've fought before. They control hundreds of worlds. If we march into their territory, we invite them to march back into ours. Commander Jalen Ward, sitting forward with fire in his eyes, replied, "And if we do nothing? If we let the Zareth burn, the Draxan grow stronger. Do you think they'll stop there? You know how they expand. The Zareth today, someone else tomorrow, and eventually, us." Ruiz crossed her arms. "You're gambling with billions of human lives." Ward stood, his voice firm. "No, General, I'm fighting for billions. That SOS was not just a cry for help. It was a warning. If the galaxy lets the Draxan devour the weak, who will be left when they come for us? Do you really want humanity to sit back and wait?" The room grew tense. All eyes turned to Admiral Hale. He was known for his calm, steady judgment, but his silence now weighed heavy. Finally, he spoke. "We are Deathworlders. The galaxy fears us for a reason. That fear can protect us, but it can also isolate us. If we choose to answer this SOS, we must commit fully. Half measures will only make us look weak. The question is not if we should respond. The question is how far we are willing to go." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the choice had been made. Mobilization. Within hours, orders spread through Earth's networks. Fleets were recalled, reserves activated, and supply lines prepared. On human colonies, workers and families watched as enormous warships rose from docks, engines blazing. The Deathworlder fleet was unlike any other in the galaxy, built by a species used to surviving storms, earthquakes, predators, and endless wars on their homeworld. Every ship was made for resilience. Their armor could take hits that would shatter other cruisers. Their weapons were designed to adapt mid-battle, switching fire modes to match new threats. But most feared of all were the humans themselves. Soldiers trained not only in zero-gravity combat, but also in survival under extreme conditions. Frozen, wastelands, burning deserts, toxic swamps. Every human officer carried the lessons of Earth's harshness. Other species saw them as reckless, but the truth was different. Humans were simply too stubborn to die. Across human space, the call was clear. The fleet was moving. Whispers across the galaxy word of the mobilization spread faster than light. Merchant guilds, spy networks, and wandering traders carried the news to other civilizations. In the council chambers of the Kyle hierarchy, leaders trembled. The Kyle had once fought humans in a border dispute and had never forgotten the scars. "If they march against the Dominion," one Kale minister whispered, "then perhaps the Draxan will finally taste the fear we knew." Among the Vorth Syndicate's smugglers debated profits. Where Deathworlders go, chaos follows. Armies break, markets shift. Best to keep clear until the dust settles. And even in the far reaches of the galaxy, where the Draxan dominions, shadow stretched long, whispers carried like wind. The humans are coming. For the first time, the conquerors felt a sliver of unease. A meeting of commanders, on board the flagship ISS Valiant, high above Earth, Admiral Hale gathered his officers. The hollow table displayed the Valoran cluster again, brighter and sharper now with detailed scans. "The Zareth are collapsing," Hale said. "Our scouts confirm that at least 6 of their worlds have already fallen. The Dominion is spreading fast. If we are to make a stand, it must be here." He pointed to the mining world GalacticPrime. Commander Ward studied the map. "Why there?" "Because it is a supply hub. The Dominion uses its resources to fuel their fleets. If we strike GalacticPrime, we cut their advance in half." "General," Ruiz leaned in. "That puts us in the heart of enemy space. We'll be surrounded." Hale's eyes hardened. "Exactly. That's what they won't expect. They see humans as reckless barbarians. Let's show them that our recklessness has purpose." The officers exchanged looks. It was dangerous, bold, and completely human. The Zareth refugees. While humanity prepared, the Zareth continued to suffer. Refugee ships scattered across the void, hunted by Draxan raiders. Entire families lived in crowded cabins, running on failing engines and dwindling food. On one such ship, the Silver Dawn, Captain Alien guided his people carefully through asteroid fields. His daughter Lyra sat beside him, watching the stars. "Father," she whispered, "the humans saved us once. Do you think they will come again?" Elian placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "They said their fleet was moving. We must have faith." Nearby, other refugees whispered among themselves. The word Deathworlders was spoken with both fear and hope. The stories were confusing. Tales of humans who fought like storms, who never gave up, who turned whole battles by sheer stubbornness. "One," Elder muttered. "If such beings are truly coming, perhaps the Draxan will finally know fear." First contact, it was not long before more Zareth ships encountered the human fleet. Warships larger than anything they had ever seen moved in disciplined formation, sleek and deadly. The sight filled the refugees with awe and trembling. When the humans opened communication, their voices were steady, their language clear. "This is the United Fleet. You are safe. Remain under our escort." The Zareth were shocked. The humans did not sound cruel or monstrous. They sounded calm, protective, strong. For the first time since the invasion began, the Zareth felt hope growing stronger than fear. The Dominion React's news of humanity's movement finally reached the Draxan Dominion. In their towering war halls, commanders of the Dominion laughed. "Humans?" one snarled. "They are young, they have no empire. They will break as all others have broken." But another commander frowned. "Do not underestimate them. I have read the old reports. Their homeworld kills them daily, yet they thrive. A race that survives such a place will not be simple prey." Still, the Dominion prepared fleets, confident in their numbers. The calm. Before the storm, as the Deathworlder fleet gathered near the edge of Zareth space, tension hung in the air. Soldiers checked weapons. Pilots whispered to one another. Civilians watched from colonies, sending prayers to the stars. On the ISS Valiant, Admiral Hale stood on the bridge, gazing into the void. Commander Ward approached. "Sir," Ward said, quietly, "do you ever wonder what the galaxy will think when this is over?" Hale did not turn. "The galaxy already fears us. After this, they will respect us." Ward nodded slowly. "And the Zareth?" "They will live," Hale said. "That is why we fight." Outside, the fleet burned with light, thousands of engines igniting at once. The Deathworlders were on the move. Ending scene on. The refugee ship Silver Dawn, little Lyra pressed her face to the glass as the stars shifted. Far in the distance, she saw it, the human armada, vast and endless, stretching like a wall of steel and fire. She whispered, almost in awe, "They came. They really came." And as the Deathworlder fleet advanced into enemy territory, the storm of war began to gather. The Black Sea of space was calm, but beneath the silence waited fire. The Deathworlder fleet had crossed the boundary into the Valoran cluster. Their ships, massive, armored, and glowing with power, moved in perfect formation. Each engine burned, bright, cutting through the darkness like blades. On the flagship ISS Valiant, Admiral Marcus Hale stood with his officers. Before them stretched the holomap of the enemy's holdings. "GalacticPrime," Hale said, pointing to the glowing red world at the heart of the display. "The Dominion uses it as a supply hub. Ore from its mines fuels their fleets. If we cut it off, we bleed their advance." Commander Jalen Ward leaned closer. "It will be heavily defended. They won't let us take it easily." Hale's voice was calm, but iron lay beneath every word. "Then we show them who we are. The galaxy calls us Deathworlders. Let us remind them what that means." The officers nodded. Orders rippled out across the fleet. Weapons powered up. Engines roared louder. And slowly, steadily, the humans advanced. The enemy awaits on GalacticPrime's orbit. The Draxan Dominion had gathered its strength. Cruisers, carriers, and battleships floated like a steel storm. Their commander, Lord Vorak, stood tall on the bridge of his flagship. His voice rumbled as he spoke to his officers. "So the humans come," he growled. "A young race, barely crawling among the stars. They think themselves strong because their world is cruel. Today we break them. Today the galaxy sees the Deathworlders die. His fleet roared approval. For too long the Dominion had faced weak prey, species who surrendered quickly. The Draxan soldiers were eager for a true challenge, and yet hidden beneath their shouts unease stirred. The stories of humans were old but sharp, creatures of chaos, fighters who refused to yield, predators even when wounded. Vorak dismissed the whispers. Numbers would decide. He had 3 times as many ships as the human fleet. No one could stand against such might. First contact. The 2 fleets met at the edge of the Rethal system. Stars glittered in the distance, silent witnesses to the coming storm. On the ISS Valiant, alarms echoed. Crew members moved quickly, calm but sharp, their hands steady on controls. Admiral Hale stood tall. "Open channel," he commanded. A holoscreen flared to life, showing the harsh face of Lord Vorak. The Draxan commander sneered. "You should have stayed in your cage, Deathworlders. This is not your war." Hale's voice was cold. "You sent war to others. You burned their homes. Their cry reached us, and we do not ignore cries for help. If you wanted peace, you should have left them in peace." Vorak laughed, cruel and loud. "You are bold. Boldness will not save you. Your fleet will break like glass." Hale's eyes hardened. "We'll see." The channel closed. Silence lingered for a heartbeat. Then Hale raised his hand. "Engage." Fire in the stars, the battle began with light. Human ships unleashed precise salvos, beams tearing across the void. Draxan cruisers answered with volleys of blazing plasma. The 2 forces clashed, metal against metal, fire against fire. Explosions bloomed like suns. Shattered ships spun into the dark. The Black Sea was no longer calm. It was alive with chaos, glowing red and white. On the Resolute, Commander Ward directed his crew with fierce focus. "Target their carriers. Don't let them launch fighters unchecked." Missiles streaked forward, breaking through shields. A Draxan carrier erupted, fire spilling into the void. Cheers filled the human bridge, but Ward raised his hand. "Stay sharp. They have numbers. We have will. Keep pressing." The Draxan fought hard. Their ships were larger, built for brute force, but humans moved differently. They darted between. Attacks adapted quickly, turned weakness into strength. Where a Draxan ship charged blindly, humans feinted, drew it in, and struck from the side. Slowly, the battle began to shift. The Zareth watch far away. On the refugee ship Silver Dawn, Zareth, survivors watched the battle unfold through shaky sensors. Captain Alien stood with his daughter Lyra, their silver eyes wide. "They fight the Dominion," Lyra whispered. "Look, that human ship, it just destroyed 3 of the enemy at once." Alien nodded, awe in his voice. "I have never seen anything like this. The humans, they are not like us. They were born in storms. They fight as if war is their nature." Among the refugees, whispers spread, fear mixed with hope. The humans were terrifying, but they were terrifying for the Zareth's enemies. For the first time, the Dominion was not the predator, the turning point. The battle raged for hours. Both sides suffered losses, but the humans refused to break. Even when a ship was crippled, its crew fought on, turning wreckage into weapons. The ISS Valiant. Admiral Hale's voice cut through the smoke-filled bridge. "Signal all ships, prepare for hammer formation." The fleet shifted, ships aligning into a sharp spearhead. At its tip was the Valiant itself, engines blazing. Together they drove forward like a blade through the Draxan line. Vorak roared, in anger as human fire cut deep into his formation. "Hold them. They are fewer than us. Crush them." But his officers hesitated. For every ship that fell, humans struck back with 2. For every trap the Dominion set, humans broke free. The Draxan had expected prey. Instead, they found predators as fierce as themselves. The fall of Rethal Prime. At last, the spearhead broke through. Human cruisers swept past defenses, striking. Rethal Prime's orbital stations. Explosions lit the sky above the planet. Factories, refineries, and supply lines burned. On the Valiant, Hale gave his final order: bring the planet to silence. Leave nothing the Dominion can use. Beams rained down, precise and surgical. Mines collapsed. Docks shattered. The Dominion's war machine screamed as its heart was torn apart. The Draxan fleet faltered. Without supply, without order, they began to scatter. Some fought to the last, others turned and fled, engines blazing into the dark. Vorak cursed as his flagship shook. Sparks rained down. This is not over, humans. The Dominion does not forgive. With that, his ship jumped to safety, vanishing into the void. Aftermath silence fell over HFY. The smoke of war drifted among broken hulls. Human ships floated, scarred but alive, their crews weary but unbroken. On the refugee ships, cheers erupted. The Zareth wept with relief. For the first time in weeks, they were not running. They were not prey. They were alive. Lyra clutched her father's hand. The humans, they saved us. Alien nodded slowly. Yes, but they also changed everything. The Dominion will not forget this, and the galaxy will never see humans the same way again. Closing scene on the bridge of the Valiant, Admiral Hale stood in silence. His officers watched him, waiting. At last, he spoke. Today, we struck a blow the Dominion will never forget. But this is only the beginning. They will come back stronger, angrier, and when they do, we will be ready. Commander Ward stepped forward, his voice steady. Sir, the galaxy is watching. They feared us before. After this, they will know why. Hale turned his gaze to the stars, his voice quiet but sharp. We answered an SOS. Now we carry a message of our own. Humanity does not run. Humanity does not break. And when we fight to win. Outside, the stars burned brighter. The humans had lit a fire in the galaxy and it would not go out. The battle for HFY had ended, but its echo spread across the galaxy like thunder after lightning. The once mighty Draxan war hub was silent. Its docks burned, its supply lines shattered. For the first time in memory, the Dominion had been forced to retreat, and at the center of this storm stood humanity, the Deathworlders, who had answered an alien cry and fought with such ferocity that even their enemies were left in awe. But victory was only the beginning, the Zareth reaction. The refugee ship Silver Dawn, Zareth survivors gathered around flickering holoscreens showing human ships in orbit. Children clung to their parents, wide-eyed with wonder, while elders spoke in hushed voices. Captain Alien addressed his people. The humans have destroyed HFY's hold. For the first time, the Draxan are wounded. But we must not mistake this for the end. The Dominion is vast, they will strike back. A trembling refugee asked, do you think the humans will stay? Or will they leave us once their point is made? Alien hesitated. He remembered the human commander's voice, calm and steady during battle. You are safe now. It was a voice of certainty, of protection. Yet even he wondered. Humans were unpredictable. They could be saviors one moment, storms the next. Little Lyra, his daughter, tugged his sleeve. Father, I don't think they will leave. I saw how they fought. They don't run away. They fight for more than just themselves. Her innocent words brought hope to the weary. Perhaps she was right. Council of the Zarithan, the hidden chambers of the Zareth Council. Leaders debated endlessly. Councillor Malira spoke with urgency. The humans saved us. Without them, the Zareth people would already be lost. We must welcome them, ally with them, and give them what aid we can. Another elder frowned. But do you not see the danger? We have invited a storm. The Draxan may hate us for resisting, but the humans may reshape us entirely. They fight with such fury. What if they decide they like our worlds for themselves? Silence fell. The truth was difficult. The Zareth were grateful, yes, but also afraid. The galaxy's whispers about Deathworlders had always carried a warning. Once humans arrive, nothing stays the same. Elder Tirash, oldest of the council, spoke last. Fear and gratitude can live together. The humans frighten us, but they also protect us. We must learn to walk this path carefully. For better or worse, our fate is now bound with theirs. Whispers in the galaxy across distant systems, word of the battle spread. Traders, spies, and wandering travelers carried the story. The Kael hierarchy, who once clashed with humans, shuddered at the news. One Kael leader muttered, "We told the galaxy they were dangerous. Now the Dominion learns it firsthand." The Vorth syndicates, always chasing profit, whispered among themselves. Where the Deathworlders go, old markets collapse. But perhaps there are new fortunes to be made beside them. Even in the Dominion itself, fear took root. Soldiers who had once laughed at the mention of humans now spoke their name with unease. Commanders studied reports, puzzled at how a smaller fleet had outmatched them. The galaxy had always feared humans in rumor. Now they feared them in truth. The human fleet holds, the ISS Valiant floated above the ruins of Rethal Prime. Its crew repaired damage, tended the wounded, and reorganized. On the bridge, Admiral Marcus Hale stood with his officers. "Reports?" he asked calmly. 27 ships lost, an officer replied. Dozens damaged but functional. Casualties? Heavy, but not crippling. Hale nodded. Losses were painful, but compared to the scale of victory, the fleet had survived well. General Elena Ruiz frowned. "We struck a mighty blow, Admiral, but we cannot stay here forever. The Dominion will return with greater force. If we linger, we may be trapped." Commander Jalen Ward disagreed. "And if we run now, the Zareth will think us no different from those who abandoned them before we came to help. We must hold long enough to show them we are not ghosts who vanish after a single strike." Ruiz glared at him. "You speak with passion, Commander, but passion does not feed fleets or replace lost ships." Hale raised a hand, silencing them. "Both of you are right. We cannot stay forever, but we cannot leave so quickly. We will hold for now. Show the Zareth they are not alone. And when the Dominion comes again, we will be ready." Meeting the Zareth not long after, a delegation of Zareth leaders arrived on the Valiant. They entered the Grand Hall, their tall, thin frames dwarfed by human soldiers in heavy armor. The contrast was striking, fragile scholars beside hardened warriors. Counselor Malira stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Admiral Hale, on behalf of my people, we thank you. Without your fleet, the Zareth would have fallen." Hale's expression remained steady. "We did what was right. Your SOS reached us. We do not ignore such calls." One elder spoke nervously. "But why? Why risk yourselves for us? You gain nothing from saving the Zareth." Hale looked at him, his voice firm. "You are wrong. We gain allies. We gain a galaxy where the strong do not prey endlessly on the weak. We gain the knowledge that humanity does not stand by while others are crushed." The Zareth exchanged glances. His words carried weight, but they also carried fear. If humanity fought for principles, then they were more dangerous than any empire. Principles never tired. Principles never yielded. Little Lyra, who had slipped into the hall beside her father, looked up at the Admiral with wide silver eyes. "Sir, will you stay with us? Will you protect us when the Draxen return?" For the first time, Hale's stern features softened. He bent slightly to meet her gaze. "Child, as long as humanity draws breath, you will not stand alone." The Zareth delegation felt both relief and unease. The humans had spoken not as saviors, but as equals. It was both comforting and terrifying. The Dominion plots far away, in the shadowed halls of the Dominion, Lord Vorak stood before his emperor. His flagship bore scars of battle, his pride wounded deeper than steel. "You faced fewer numbers and failed," the emperor's voice rumbled. Vorak bowed low. "Forgive me, my emperor. I underestimated them. They fight like no other species. They do not yield. They are—" He hesitated, then whispered the word. "Deathworlders." The Emperor's eyes burned. Then we will learn them. We will study their weaknesses. And when we strike again, we will not underestimate. Prepare the fleets. Gather the armies. If they wish war, we shall give them war greater than they imagine. The Dominion prepared, their hunger for revenge sharpening. Tension. Among humans back on the Valiant, officers argued late into the night. Some feared they had awoken a monster greater than the Dominion. Others believed humanity had finally found its place as protectors, not just survivors. Commander Ward said quietly to Ruiz, "The galaxy already feared us. But now they will also respect us." Ruiz shook her head. Respect is just another word for fear dressed in polite clothing. Do not mistake one for the other. Ward did not argue. He only looked at the stars, knowing the path ahead would not be easy. Closing scene on the refugee ship, Lyra curled against her father's side, watching the human fleet outside the window. The stars glowed around the great ships, their engines like suns in the dark. "Father," she whispered, "the humans scare me, but I also feel safe with them. How can that be?" Alien stroked her hair gently. "Because, child, sometimes the ones who frighten us most are also the ones who keep us alive. Fear and respect often walk together." And as the Deathworlder fleet held its ground, the galaxy whispered louder than ever. Fear and respect. The Deathworlders had brought both. The Valoran cluster had grown quiet, but the calm was false. Beneath the shadows, the Draxan Dominion regrouped, their fleets gathering in the outer sectors, their armies whispering of revenge. The Zareth had survived, but the war was far from over. Above the ruins of HFY, the Deathworlder fleet loomed like an iron wall. Massive human warships floated in perfect formation, their engines blazing, their crews tense but ready. Every officer knew what lay ahead. The Dominion would return, and this time they would strike with everything they had. Admiral Marcus Hale walked the bridge of the ISS Valiant, surveying the hollow map of enemy movements. The Draxan were sending 3 fleets converging on HFY, each larger than the last. Commander Jalen Ward stood beside him. "Sir, they've learned from their losses. Their numbers are overwhelming this time." Hale's eyes did not waver. Numbers do not win wars. Strategy, endurance, and the will to survive win wars. They underestimate humanity, and that is their first mistake. Preparing for the storm, the human crews worked tirelessly. Weapons were upgraded, shields reinforced, and pilots drilled in maneuvers designed to turn every disadvantage into an advantage. On board each vessel, soldiers moved with disciplined precision. Every hand knew its task. Every mind anticipated the unexpected. General Elena Ruiz reviewed the fleet's strategy with Hale. "We can hold the outer systems, but if the Draxan press too hard, they will try to overwhelm us. We need a plan that ensures maximum effect with minimum loss." Hale's gaze met hers, steady and unwavering. "We strike at their command centers first, break their communication, break their coordination. Then we hit them hard, fast, and from multiple directions. That is how we win when outnumbered." Ruiz nodded slowly. "It's bold, but it might just work." The Zareth stand with humanity. Far below, on the planets and refugee ships, the Zareth prepared to aid the humans. Captain Alien led a fleet of scavenged vessels, patched together from abandoned colonies. They were fragile compared to human cruisers, but they had one advantage: knowledge of the local space. Counselor Malira oversaw the organization of civilians, setting up supply stations, repair docks, and communication hubs. The Zareth, once passive scholars, now acted as a network supporting the human strike. Lyra, her silver eyes wide, helped relay messages between ships. "Father," she whispered, "they fight like storms. I can feel it. The humans, they are unstoppable." Alien placed a hand on her shoulder. "They are not unstoppable, child, but they fight for others, not just themselves. That is what makes them different and dangerous." The battle begins. The first signs of the approaching Draxan fleet appeared as distant blurs of light. Scouts reported hundreds of ships, each bristling with weapons, engines glowing red with energy. The Deathworlders adjusted their formation, turning their fleet into a spearhead aimed directly at the incoming enemy. Admiral Hale gave the order. Hold fire until they are within range. When we strike together. Focus on command. Vessels first. The Draxan advanced with confidence, their own fleets forming walls of steel. On the bridge of the Dominion's wrath, Lord Vorak smiled. The humans will break this time, he said. They are few. Their resolve will not last under the full might of the Dominion. But humans do not yield like other species. Human tactics when the fleets closed, the Deathworlders unleashed their fury. Beams of energy cut through Draxan shields. Missiles streaked forward, homing in with deadly precision. Ships darted in and out of fire, using formations no enemy had predicted. Commander Ward directed the fleet from the Resolute. Split into wings, strike from multiple angles, draw their fire, then counterattack at weak points. Remember, adaptability is our greatest weapon. Draxan ships tried to regroup, but the humans were faster, smarter, relentless. Even when a vessel was hit, its crew used emergency thrusters, boarding protocols, and improvised weapons to turn disaster into opportunity. Explosions bloomed like new suns. Fires danced in the void. The galaxy, long accustomed to fear of humans, in rumor, now saw the reality. A storm of steel, fire, and unyielding will. Breaking the Dominion hours of battle passed, and the Draxan lines began to crumble. Command ships were destroyed, supply fleets annihilated, and soldiers lost coordination. Panic rippled through their forces. On the bridge of the Valiant, Hale observed the chaos. Prepare the hammer formation. Target their remaining command vessels and secure the outer systems. Finish this fight before they regroup. The fleet shifted into a massive spear-like formation. Ships surged forward as one, cutting a path through the remaining Draxan vessels. Missiles, energy beams, and human ingenuity tore through the enemy. Lord Vorak, trapped and surrounded, cursed loudly. Impossible. How can so few fight with such precision? Hale's voice came over the void. Because we are humans. We do not break. We do not surrender. And we fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. The Zareth witnessed below. The Zareth watched the fleet strike. Ships on their sensors exploded in chains of fire. Enemy vessels shattered under human tactics that no one had anticipated. The survivors gasped in awe. Little Lyra pressed her hand to the glass of her vessel. Father, they are incredible. They are like a storm that cannot be stopped. Elian nodded. Yes, child. That is why the galaxy fears them. That is why the Dominion underestimated them. Humans fight differently. They fight with heart, with mind, with every part of themselves. The final strike, as the battle reached its climax, the humans launched a coordinated attack on the Draxan flagship, the Dominion's Wrath, which had once commanded fleets with fear and authority. Human warships struck from all angles, tearing through shields and armor. Commander Ward's voice rang through communications. All wings, converge on the flagship. No retreat. End this now. The Draxan fought back fiercely, but humans were relentless. Every maneuver anticipated, every strike countered. Explosions lit the void as the Dominion's flagship broke apart in a cascade of fire and debris. Lord Vorak barely escaped, retreating with a handful of ships. The Draxan Empire had lost a major hub, its supply lines shattered, its fleets broken. Aftermath silence fell once again across the Valoran cluster. Smoke drifted among the stars, broken ships floated like corpses in the void. And above the remains, the Deathworlder fleet held strong, unbroken, and vigilant. On Rethal Prime, Zareth survivors cheered. Ships that had once fled now docked safely, under human protection. Supply lines were restored. Refugees could breathe. Captain Alien spoke to his people. The humans have done what no one else could. We are alive because of them. And the galaxy has learned that the stories were true. The Deathworlders fight not just for themselves, but for others. Lyra smiled up at him. Father, I think I understand. Humans are scary, but also wonderful. Alien chuckled softly. Yes, child. That is exactly why they are feared and why they are respected. Messages across the stars, reports of the battle spread quickly. News of the human assault, their tactics, and the destruction of the Dominion's fleet traveled faster than light. Across distant worlds, alien civilizations whispered of the Deathworlder's wrath. Traders in the Kale system warned, do not anger the humans. They fight differently. They adapt. They endure. The Vorth syndicates considered new alliances. A human fleet is a storm. Side with it and you may survive. Even the Draxan Dominion sent secret communiques trembling with unease. The humans, we underestimated them. The galaxy had learned a hard truth. When humans answer an SOS, they do not come quietly. They do not come gently. They come with fire, precision, and the unyielding will to protect. Human reflection. On the bridge of the Valiant, Admiral Hale looked at the stars, now quiet for a brief moment. Commander Ward approached him. Sir, Ward said, the Dominion will recover. They will return. What then? Hale's eyes were sharp, unwavering. Then we fight again. We adapt again. We endure again. That is what it means to be human. That is what it means to be a Deathworlder. Ward nodded. And the Zareth? They will live. Today they see what it means to be protected. Tomorrow the galaxy will see what it means to awaken the wrath of humanity. The legacy of the battle far above Rethal Prime, the human fleet stood silent, watching as the remnants of the Draxan fled. Fires burned across the planet, but the Zareth were safe. Civilizations would rebuild. Alliances would form. And the story of the Deathworlder's arrival would travel across light years for centuries. Little Lyra looked at the massive human ships. Father, do you think they will always fight for others? Alien smiled. Yes, child. They fight for others, for what is right, and for those who cannot fight. That is why the galaxy fears them. That is why the galaxy respects them. And that is why, when humans answer an SOS, the universe itself changes. And in that moment, a new chapter began. The Deathworlders had arrived. The galaxy would never forget them.